Hello, everyone. Thank you for sticking with us. That was Youth v. Gov. And we need to swap over to the projector momentarily. Sorry. uh, we are running a couple of minutes behind schedule. I apologize for that, but we're not bad. So we're going to cut our next Q&A just a little bit short and then jump into Maxi at 2:30. Joining us is Dennis. Hey, hello, Dennis. Thank you for being here. Dennis was one of the producers of the film. We have a longer Q&A with the director, Christy Cooper, as well as another one of the producers, Olivia Onman, that is available on our on-demand side of the film festival. So I know people say don't get political, but I would counter-argue with this film. It pulls zero punches against both Democrats and Republicans. It kind of skewers everybody. So it's not necessarily taking a side, because it's pretty brutal against all sides of the political spectrum, right, Dennis?
That's absolutely correct. That's one of the points, I think, of the film, is that the government action or inaction or ill-advised actions have been going on for a long time, regardless of which party was in control. And regardless of who was president, at least back to a certain point. But yes, that's definitely the case.
So we have microphones there and there if an audience member has a question. Also, hello to everyone who is watching us via live stream. Thank you for joining us here today. We just finished watching Youth v. Gov. Hopefully you got a chance to check it out before the live stream, but it is available on demand all week, so you can go back and watch it anytime. Dennis, how did this film come about? And I know it's interesting. It's weird to make a documentary about a story that is still unsettled, right? Like there's not really an ending to this right now. Was there talk about maybe do we hold off and then the case gets extended for years and maybe the film never gets made?
No, not really. Because the climate crisis has been with us for many years, and so the feeling was to go ahead with it. Its initial origins came from earlier set of shorter films that Christy had worked on that was sort of related to the larger case here. There was and so she had done very well with several of those. That was done with Peter Gabriel's Foundation Witness. And she decided to stay with the subject even after she had finished her work on those shorter pieces. And that was really the origins. And starting, I think it was around 2016, she really made the decision to follow the lawsuit and make a feature film out of it and go into more depth than the shorter pieces had permitted her to do. And so it was never really something like we thought, well, let's not do this, And she actually had it started already when I came on, and I think when Olivia came on. So she sort of started it herself and then gathered Olivia and me and Liz Smith and Tony and Lyman and everybody else to assist her in it, and it's still going on. The issue is still going on. In fact, you could argue we're in really worse shape than we thought. I always say 2030 is here, and it's time to do something about it.
Well, this is an area where it hits home for us because we just had a massive fire here, the Bootleg Fire. There's just a little bit east of us. Last year, a week before our film festival, was the Almeda fire that devastated Talent, Phoenix, Ashland communities. And last year, we actually had one of our filmmakers lost their house in that fire.
Oh, geez. Oh, yeah, and so I'm based in Montana, so we have many of the same issues here. It's fire season is every year, and it's become progressively longer and longer.
So with this film and the topic, I'm sure some of us are curious because this was a collective of kids from all over the U.S. Why Oregon? Why Eugene? Why did it end up going to like the course of the case end up in Eugene and Oregon when there were kids from all over the country that were actively involved in this case?
I think it was where the lawyers were based and where they thought it had very good chances of success. And also where it was a state, and you notice we have several people from Oregon, several of the young people, where climate change was having a decided impact, and that there would be a predilection to wanting to do something about it because they're actually experiencing it. So I think that was the decision.
Can you give us a status update on where things stand now?
Well, there is the latest that we've heard is that the Biden administration is talking to the attorneys, okay, that there could possibly be a settlement, but that's not a certain thing. But, you know, like any lawsuit, you can have a settlement with it. And so there are some discussions going on exploring that possibility as opposed to taking this forward, which ultimately would go to the Supreme Court.
A settlement would be interesting because isn't the basis of the argument not being a financial case, but seeking action?
Exactly. I'm not an attorney, so I can't really say what the structure of a settlement would be. Right. But you know, the Biden administration has committed itself to taking definitive actions to at least deal with climate change. So a settlement doesn't seem to be that outside of its realm of policy making. On the other hand, you know, I'm not sure, you know, what that would mean, because what they've always asked for is a plan to combat climate change and to reverse it. So it would be very interesting if there was a settlement, but that's what I think they're working out right now. Is this really a possibility or not? So,
Dennis, has this film shown at other festivals? Has it been making the rounds? And if so, have you had a chance to see it in a theater or be engaged in some of the conversations that the film has sparked?
Actually, because of COVID, I did not get to see the film in a theater until about 2 weeks ago when it played at a festival here in Bozeman. It had played in, I think, the first theater might have been Telluride Mountain, I think. But we were already well into a lot of our festivals. So, you know, the first festival was in November of 2020 at Doc NYC. So, yeah, so it was really kind of a thrill to see it in a theater because I'd, you know, been through all the edits and everything else. And so it really does inspire people to take, I think, the climate change seriously and to want to do something about it. I think seeing so many, you know, intelligent, committed young people of all kinds of backgrounds wanting to make this happen can only inspire people of all ages and all backgrounds.
Well, thank you, Dennis, for being here. I'm sorry that we have to kind of cut things short, but we got a little bit behind schedule, and I want to get back on schedule with things. But for those of you who have an online pass, we have an extensive Q&A with the director of the film and one of the producers, along with Dennis, Olivia, going into much greater detail about this film and the current situation, where things kind of go forward with things. So thank you to everyone who's joining us via live stream. And thank you, Dennis, so much for joining us to talk about this wonderful film.
Well, thank you for having us in the festival.
Kurt, can I ask one question?
I'm sorry, John, could you go up to the mic? I can't hear you from here.
Dennis, I just want to ask one question.
Okay.
Sure.
Again, thank you for such a well-produced film. That was amazing. The question I have is that a lot of these approaches we take to fixing these problems, again, we're up against the oil company, and they are very entrenched, and they have squashed so many things that have been solutions in the past, so that people think there isn't a solution, you know, but there is. I think, so if we can have other alternative energy sources that are even greater than, say, solar and everything else. And I think that one that looks very promising is the energy from the vacuum itself. Our science shows that the amount of energy in the cubic centimeter vacuum is galaxies worth. If we can tap into something like that, it would solve all our energy problems. A lot of the efforts in that have been squashed over the years, so a lot of people don't even know about it.
I'm not sure Dennis is a scientist, but I'm sure
Well, I
it's
know,
a,
but
it's
if
a
we
good
could
compelling
present
argument.
Yes, I
to
can't
our
speak to that. But
yeah, I just think if we could present to our kids and say, look, you guys, instead of fighting it the government way, why don't we just implement a better way of doing it, and it would solve the problem because it would cut the feet under the oil companies. Do you think that the movement would be open to that approach as solving the problem?
I think right now, I think, the movement is not really is committed to a goal. And how to get that goal is really what's under discussion. So I think, when we were talking about the settlement talks and everything else, it's like there are multiple ways, and it's not just one action, it's going to be many actions that we're going to have to take. And so the things that you mentioned, as was said, I'm not a scientist, so I can't really speak to that. But obviously, anything that would help to, make climate change less impactful on everybody, and would save the planet, to be quite frank, is something that should be explored.
Yeah, I think one of the motivating things from the film is maybe that there's little things that we can do ourselves to just make a little teeny tiny impact. I bought an electric car this summer, so it makes me happy every time that I drive by a gas station and know I never have to stop at one again. So that's my own little tiny way of contributing. But there's different ways that all of us can do so. Dennis, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate the time. Our next film is Maxie, which was shot in Eugene. Warning, thank you, Dennis, so much. Warning, this film does have a lot of adult language and some adult situations. If you're sensitive to that, just advance notice. But this film hits close to home for me because I grew up in Eugene and I know every square inch where this film was shot. So we hope that you enjoy Maxie. Afterwards, we will be doing a Q&A with the film's director, Jared Bryant, who is here in-house. So thank you so much for sticking with us at the 2021 Klamath Independent Film Festival.